Hey, it's Brad from Scrape Line Hunters, and we're out at Vortex new facility in Barneville, Wisconsin today. Hey everybody, we're here at Vortex today, and Ryan Muckenhirn is going to help us put on a scope on our new Tikka rifle.
Yeah, we're going to start by putting on a base. Now the Tikkas come with an integral dovetail receiver, which you can mount rings to. Our preferred method is to use a one-piece Picatinny base. This one's from our friends at EGW Guns. Excellent product, we recommend them on the Optin. So we're just going to set it on there, line up the holes, and then secure them. Base install.
Ryan, so on this Picatinny Rail here, I purchased a 0 MOA. So when I talked to the folks at the manufacturer, they said that would be good out to 400 to 500 yards with the particular scope.
I would say, generally speaking, 500 yards and in, 0 MOA. If you plan on shooting further than 500 yards, consider a 10 to a 20 MOA. However, it depends on the cartridge, it depends on the rifle scope. You might be surprised. I run a 0 MOA on my T3 Chamberlain 6.5 Creedmoor, and I've shot that all the way out to 880 yards without having to worry about any degree of cant or anything like that. So it's a general guideline. Overall, I think you can get away with a 0 on most hunting applications. If we are looking to seek 1,000 yards, let's look at a 20 MOA.
Okay.
So this is called a dead levels from our friends at Badger Ordnance, and a lot of times we struggle with mounting rifle scopes by getting the rifle level. This takes that out of the equation.
Okay.
So because we're running a Picatinny Rail, which is a fairly universal application mount, this is a precision Picatinny Rail. We can mount the rings to it and then just simply drop them right on the rifle.
Oh, nice.
This takes out all the guesswork in leveling out the rifle. It actually takes it completely out of the equation, which I really like.
Nice.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Very, very useful product. Yeah, this just kind of removes that final bit of head scratch and doubt in the whole setup. And there's a lot of debate over what is more important, a level scope, a level gun, how do you get them that way? It might be a conversation for another day. Long story short, if you have the ability to level your rifle and then level your scope to it, you're probably in the best case scenario. So one thing that I like to make sure that we do when we're mounting, especially with Picatinny rails, is if we have these screws loose, you can see we get some fore and aft movement on the lug. You want to make sure that the ring is pushed forward all the way to the lug, so that when the rifle recoils, the ring can't slide, right?
Oh, sure.
We just want to make sure it's pushed all the way forward. And then another thing I did there before we secured these was I took a look at where the rings would be placed on the rifle scope. I like to see about a minimum of 3/8 of an inch from the back, this feature right here, where the main tube stops and it starts to flare up to go next to that magnification ring. And then I like to be, I guess, at least centered or just slightly forward to centered from the front ring as well on a scope that has a parallax adjustment feature like this 4-16 does. So I like that right about there. And bear in mind, we're using a Picatinny rail, so we have all that added flexibility of mounting where it can go on there, so we can set eye relief up later. And with rings like our Pro Series ring, or Warren Maxima Series rings, or any vertically split ring, we've got to be careful about how we tension the ring screws, specifically on vertically split rings. And with the case of our Pro Series, we want to go with the top screws first, and I'm just getting them started and snugged, and then we'll give them a final torque, and then we will insert the bottom screws after we level. There's a lot of different ways we can do this, though.
Okay.
This is kind of the easy way. One thing that you're going to notice me do here is going to cheat the bubble, and then we're going to tension the ring screws, which is actually going to tilt the scope into kind of like a final position. So sometimes it takes 1 or 2 runs in order to get that figured out, but rest assured we will prevail. And this is from many trials and errors.
I can imagine.
Many. So I'm just going to start the bottom screws, make sure that they're in the threaded receptacle. Not going to allow them to get to the head of the fastener. And I'm going to go back to my torque wrench. Grab a T15, my little kit here. We're going to bring that torque to 18 inch-pounds, which is the maximum torque setting that Vortex recommends on any rifle scope. The top screws are far less critical on this particular set of rings as far as you know, how they're torqued, so long as the bottom screws are loose. Because even though these are now tensioned and tight, we can still rotate the scope. And that's kind of the interesting part about vertically split rings is either the bottom or the top will only close the radius of the product and kind of cradle it. And then when we tension the opposing screws, then that locks the scope in place. So right now, the scope can still kind of free twist.
Sure.
So we're just going to start bringing that torque down here. And I'll just bring it to the head of the fastener. And you can kind of feel that tension stop, and then I'll let off and I'll go to the next screw. And we want to make sure that we do this incrementally and evenly so that we don't apply too much force to one, possibly creating a bind. And then we're going to just incrementally tighten them. And again, I'm not camming my torque wrench over. I'm just bringing small amounts of torque into the equation evenly across the 4 fasteners. And you can see that bubble level starting to creep a little bit. It's just leveling the scope out.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully I'm going to be close on this one. So now that we've leveled the rifle scope on the mount, we can just simply drop it in place on the rifle itself. And I'm just going to take a guesstimation as to where we're going to find the best eye relief, and we'll do a quick test and see where we're at here. And I'm going to have to back it up. I don't want you to have to move your head forward or aft. When you pull that up, I want it on the way. Do I get through? And that is one of the biggest things that we see, folks. The scope is not set up in the highest magnification when they mount it, and they just
That's actually perfect.
Yeah.
I had my head way back, like I was like way back here.
You go to a sporting goods store, the clerk behind the counter puts the scope together, puts the gun together, but doesn't take you into consideration. So just like you had your shotgun fit, it's equally as important to have your rifle fit.
Eye relief is one of the most important aspects of a proper mount.
Yeah. So now if I dial the magnification back and you pull it up, like all you're going to have is more, you know, available field of view, more available eye relief.
Absolutely.
Yep. And so we set the scope up at the worst possible position for your eye.
Okay.
And then we make it right, and then it's good.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, now that we've got the rifle scope mounted, we've got everything leveled out and bore sighted, a couple of things that we want to look at, and this is going to be per shooter, is reticle focus. And so this function here on your rifle scope is your fast focus eyepiece or your diopter adjustment. In all reality, what this does is focuses your reticle. We see a lot of people on the range trying to use this as like an image focus, and that will throw the whole thing out of whack. So there's a fairly specific technique in doing this, and what you'll do is you'll take a gun, and you're going to get set up here, and here I'll hold them, you got them. You bring the rifle up, and you want to face it into like this white wall right here, and looking at that reticle for only about 3 seconds. And then you'll move away. You'll make small infinitesimal adjustments to that diopter until that reticle appears razor
So you
sharp.
preferably want a wall that's
Correct,
25
featureless.
yards away.
It doesn't matter how far, but featureless, so that there's nothing in the foreground that can attract your eye level.
That looks pretty good.
Cool. Unless your eye autofocus on something else, and pull it up one more time.
Very good.
Set it and forget it. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you bet.
I learned something. I never knew that is the reticle.
Yes.
So you never touch that again then? You're set. Hey, can you explain the other adjuster to us?
Side parallax adjustment.
Yes.
This is a doozy. Okay. Another feature on some rifle scopes, not all rifle scopes, that has a lot of questions asked is, what does this knob do, this parallax adjustment? And parallax is an interesting optical phenomenon that we'll go into in a little bit here, but effectively this has two functions. One, primary function, it eliminates parallax, or allows you to tune your parallax. Two, it acts as a rudimentary focus. This is just kind of a happy coincidence with the parallax elimination process. But what parallax is an optical phenomenon that occurs when your eyeball, your sighting device, in this case your reticle, and your target are all on different visual planes. And at home, you can test the parallax theory by pointing at something on your wall, whatever it is, a light switch, a light, a picture, and just shake your head in a no fashion. And what will happen is it looks like your finger's moving off of that object, when in fact it's not, right? Your eyeball is on a different visual plane than your finger, in this case your reticle, versus your target. And so this parallax adjustment will align a series of lenses to put the reticle and the target on the same visual plane, so that no matter where you move your head, your reticle is glued to that target. If you have parallax induced and you're trying to shoot for accuracy, you'll notice that when you get behind your gun and you move subtly, your reticle will appear to move on your target, even though you're not influencing your firearm. So just imagine, if you fire around and you cycle out and you get back on your gun, but you're not in exactly the same position you were when you fired the first round, and I'm talking off just a small amount, you open up the door to miss. So make sure you tune your parallax when you're getting set up. A lot of folks ask me, like, hey, what if I hunt in an area that maybe I'm not going to have a shot over 100 or 200 yards? Is parallax critical? And generally, I'll say no. So what I'll recommend doing is 0 at 100 yards or 200, whatever you're comfortable with, and note the position of your parallax knob there, and just keep it on that at all times. So if you're hunting a deer stand here in central Wisconsin or northern Wisconsin, you get a 100-yard shot, set it, forget it, don't worry about it.
How do you focus the scope so that when I take these off and I want to make sure that everything is that's this ring here?
Magnification. So now with prescription glasses, are they reading glasses or are they correct?
Both.
Okay.
I don't want to use these when I'm hunting.
So that gets a little tricky. So the reticle focus will have to change when you remove your prescription. You'll have to do that process over again. It's not a very involved process. It doesn't take long. It'll take you about 5 to 10 seconds. But anytime that you put your corrective lenses on over, you've now changed the prescription of the entire situation here. So you've got to correct for it accordingly. Parallax won't really have any bearing on that though. So this knob won't necessarily be affected by your eyeglasses. Your reticle focus will be. And that's that.